Good afternoon, everyone. As some of you know, I'm Simon Bliss, Chairman at Team. I'm really excited to bring you this webinar. This is a great time of year to think about the next year, and more than ever, business planning should be on your agenda now, not just budgeting. And I'm really pleased to say that we brought Angela Cripps in from the Recruitment Gym. The Recruitment Gym have been fantastic for Team this year. They've really helped us through lockdown with their daily stand-up. So thank you, Angela and Alex, for all the work and your colleagues have done to keep us motivated and going. I'm going to hand over to Angela now. You've got around 30 minutes, haven't you, Angela, on your presentation? And then we're going to open up questions from you if you have any. If you could put those in the do you want those in the Q&A? I think not the chat. We want those in the Q&A down the bottom of your screens so that we can build up those. If you see questions there that are the same as yours or very similar, obviously let that run. And we'll try and open it up for people to so that they can ask Angela directly rather than just do it on the chat. It'd be nicer if we engage at the end. So Angela, thank you very much. Take it away.
The Recruiting Gym, as he said, has been helping everyone. It's been helping me as well, to be honest, to get through this year. But we're touching distance now of 2021. So if you haven't thought of your annual business plans yet, then we do need to focus on those. And we do need to make sure that next year is a much better year for all of us than 2020. So I've got a presentation for you. There's going to be a lot of information in here, guys. So don't worry. You've got the presentation will come to you with all the information. The documents that I reference, you're going to get as well. So you're going to get all the support and help that you need to be able to put these plans into action. So let's crack on first of all with the details, a little introduction to me, and then we'll move forward and go through all of the information. So annual business plans, then achieving your goals. So let's give you a little bit of a agenda, what we're going to be covering. So I'll do the introduction and where this all came from. We're going to start with the end in mind, start with a vision, look at the annual overall objectives, break it down into quarters and monthly. And then from that, objectives, actually having a strategy for both your customers. So that includes your internal as well, that we'll pick up at the end. So we've got your candidate strategy, we've got your client strategy. And there it's from analysis to planning. It's all well and good having a business plan. I wonder how many of you have written a business plan at the end of the year before, or the end of your financial year. You've written it all out. It's probably quite a few pages, looks fantastic, great idea, gets put in a drawer. You get it out again next October. And go, oh, we were going to do this. Oh, we've achieved that. Fantastic. More from luck than judgment. Unfortunately, that happens a lot. And what I'm going to share with you today, yes, as a sort of a principal member for your business, for your team, but actually each individual can also do their annual business plan. So each consultant will be able to utilise these and put their own plans into place as well. So it's multi-usage, which I love. For me, it's one activity, multiple results in recruitment. You cannot afford to be doing something and you only get one result out of it. We just haven't got the time. So we'll go from that analysis to planning and look at the activities required that are going to need success. And then, as I say, we've got the questions at the end, but Simon said, feel free to put your questions in the chat as we go through, one, so that you don't forget it, because you'll get to the end and then you go, oh, I had a question, what was it? Also, then we can go through those quite quickly, and then we can open it up to everyone as to what else you need to know. So let's move along then. So first and foremost, a bit of background about me. I've been in the recruitment industry over 30 years. Recruiting Gym. Don't worry, Simon. I called it the Recruitment Gym for about 4 months as well. The Recruiting Gym, online training powered by humans. So it's been ideal this year for people that are stuck at home. They've had somewhere to come, but there are humans behind it. It's not just the technology, because it's great. The courses are amazing. We get great feedback. But the bit that people like is the fact they get access to a coach. So there's 12 of us now in the Recruiting Gym. I think the minimum experience is 15 years in the recruitment industry. So we're all very experienced. We know what we're talking about, been there, done that, and here to help. And that's what we were doing with the daily stand-ups, now called the daily workout. And all team members get access to that. So do make sure you take advantage. There's nearly 200 webinars in there with lots of information for you. So I've worked with over 150 SMEs throughout the world. I've focused on APAC for the last 5 years. Luckily, through this, I've been able to still work with them. Just don't get to do the traveling, unfortunately. But what's important, I started this about 8 years ago through the Growth Accelerator program, and I've adapted it and moved it and worked with over 45 recruitment companies on their annual business plans since. So I know it works. That's the key. And it's really helped these companies to develop and thrive. So let's give you the info then. Start with the end in mind, as I said. So our starting point, don't worry, you don't need to read the information on there. This is the vision exercise document. Getting a vision of where you're going by the end of 2021 is going to be critical for you, but everyone else around you as well. So it's 5 simple questions that actually establish your most important words and phrases and things that mean things to you. You don't have to spend days trying to create a vision. This will, in 20 minutes, half an hour, will get you a vision, plus also your company values that will come through. So it's a great document, really easy to do, and a lovely one to do at the end of the year with all of your team. So you answer the 5 questions, and from that, I highlight the most important words and phrases, and it's from those words and phrases that you then create a statement. And yes, the first time you do it, it is a little bit shoehorned in words here and there. So you do draft 1. You then open it up to your team, you get them, and if you've got a big team, put them in groups to come up with their own vision statement. And you know what? When they read it out, it really gets you here because it sounds fantastic. This is how they see the company. So you want to hear what they're doing. And you'll notice there's a red here, and this actually says, attitude and culture. How would you like to describe or how do you describe the attitude and culture within the business? Write down both the positives and the negatives. Now, you're not going to use the negatives in your vision because your vision is where you want to be, not where you are now with the negatives. But what is great is you also start to understand, okay, where are the negative attitudes and culture? What else do I need to work on with my people? So again, 1 activity, multiple results. We're going to get a vision. We're going to get teamwork and team building. We're going to find out where the negatives are that we can work on those. Plus, we're going to find out our company values, all from 1 document, all in 20 minutes. I love this. As I say, it's all in there for you. So those 5 questions, here they are. What's the purpose? Either the company or the desk, if you've got a consultant doing it. Words that you use for both positives and negatives to describe the culture and the attitudes within the business. So positives might be consistency, hardworking, friendly, approachable, dedicated, all of those fantastic things. Negatives might be consistency. That one comes up quite a few times as well throughout the document. It could be sort of lack of a can-do attitude. So yeah, words, phrases, what is it that you need to know about that? Think about the end of next year. What do you want your customers saying about you? Again, end of next year, what standards do you want to aspire? Consistency usually comes back in here again. And then finally, what benefits do your customers get? Now, there's no wrong answers here. It's whatever you think. So it's an easy exercise to do. That purpose of the company or the desk, that starting point, people get a little bit hung up. Well, I worked for Blue Arrow for 13 years, and our purpose was to get jobs for people and people for jobs. That was our strapline in the end, because that's what we did. Simple. Yeah, it sounds simple. We know it's not. We're in recruitment. But that was the purpose. So therefore, it's nice and easy. Now, if your purpose is to give you a work-life balance or work-life integration, to make lots of money, that's your purpose. That's fine. You decide whatever it is that's important to you. So once you've got those questions, highlight the terms that stand out on the page from you. What is it that jumps out? Highlight all of those, use those to create the sentences, get the team to do the same. So draft 1 is yours, draft 2 is theirs, then draft 3, you put it all together. So actually, you hope that some of the information that they've put in their statements actually is the same as yours. So when you put it together, yes, you're going to definitely keep that. And they go, oh, I did that bit. That was my word. I wrote that bit. You also get that involvement from people and engagement. And that's what we need next year, to people to feel engaged with the vision, that they know where they're going and that they were actually part of that process as well. And that's going to make a big difference, rather than potentially an external company coming in, creating your vision for you, giving it to you, you put it up on the wall, everyone reads it and goes, sounds nice, yeah, great. Doesn't actually mean anything to them. So utilize it to generate your company values, and they're the words that come out the most. Out of what everyone's written, the words that came out the most that's pretty much your company value. So it'd be interesting to see what they are. Okay, let's move on then. So we've got our year-long vision, and halfway through the year you double check to see, is it actually okay still? Have we achieved it already? Do we need to rewrite it? But you'd usually keep it for at least a year, and if next December you're still not quite there, you haven't achieved what you wanted to achieve, then you keep it until you do. If it's still motivating you, if it's still giving you what you need, then you stick with the vision. As soon as you've achieved it and you think, yeah, no, we're there, we've done it, write a new one and go through the same process. So it's really nice this time of year, December, to do it as an exercise. Everyone gets involved. You come up with the new vision for the next year. So that's the annual bit. We now need to get to the practicalities. You might want to call it the visions like the woolly bit. Well, okay, here's the detail that comes in. So we go from annual, we break it down into quarters, then into months, and by the end of it we can break it down to weeks and even days. So the key is these all link together. Whatever you're doing on a day-to-day basis actually is going to achieve your overall annual goals. And again, this is what gets missed. People write an annual plan and it's still a plan. It doesn't get broken down into the day-to-day job. So what you do as a company needs to be shared with the consultants, and ideally, as I said, they have their own plan that links into yours. They take they're part of those objectives, and therefore they can work out daily, what do I need to do that's going to mean that I achieve what the company needs us to achieve. So let's work through these. So the annual bit, annual objectives, the orbit, this is what I took from the Growth Accelerator plan. So hopefully a few of you have seen this if you went through it. Got an example in there, it'll be on the slides, it's a PowerPoint so you can grab it and take your own, but you'll see on the left and the right hand side you've got potential spokes, things that could be around the outside. You have to decide for your business based on what you want to achieve. Okay, what do we need to work on? What do we need to monitor? And usually you would have your revenue in there, you would have so whether it's GP or turnover, depending on temp or perm contract. Obviously if you're perm it's the same anyway. Things like returning customers year on year, really critical to make sure you don't lose any, because there's probably quite a few of your clients that didn't use you this year because of what's happened, and therefore it could potentially be up to 2 years, and therefore contacts could have changed. You need to be on top of that, making sure that's part of your strategy, that you're bringing back all of those clients. We set up the gym, or me, sorry, it's very much a we already. Alex set up the gym last year and we've got, I think, 141 different clients on our list. So we'll be going through all of those in December. We'll be contacting those and we'll be setting our targets for next year to make sure those people come back again. So we're exactly the same as you. We're going through this process at the moment. Maybe it's a focus on exclusivity or retained. That was a key thing this summer, that we suddenly realized we need to get the money up front, to be honest. We can't afford to be doing contingency and not filling these positions. So job fill rate could be one for you as well. So it's important that we make sure that you're focusing on the things that are going to make a difference. And if you're not sure how to do it, of course, we in the recruiting gym have got a course for that. So you can always come to us and ask. So this is the starting point, and you could actually do this over 3 years. I've just done this one for 2021. So it's broken down into quarters. So you've got the overall on the year outside, and then you've got the 4 different quarters. Okay, where do we need to be at each quarter? And you decide what's going to be in the boxes around the outside. But if you've got a larger company, then yeah, a 3-year strategy, definitely. So the inside blue circle is where are we this year? Where have we ended up? And then the next 3 circles are each year going out, 21, 22, 23. And you can actually expand it out to where you want to be. So great way of representing, here's our plan, here's what we're doing. And it's got 8 spokes because it looks neat. You can add 10, you can have 12, as many as you want really, as long as you're focusing on them and you've got a strategy to back it up. It's not just a number. So let's move on to break it down to quarters. I haven't added all the detail here, so it's a lot simpler for you to grab and to take. So start with your objectives, your end results, where you want to be around the outside, and think, right, Q1, this is where we needed to be. So therefore, let's make sure that I've got smart objectives. Are they realistic? Do they relate to each other as well? And then start planning out what your objectives are going to be. Make sure that they are going to be the ones, you break it down into January, February, March, and then I've got Q1 set out. I know exactly my plan. great for consultants to be able to do their presentation to their managers to say, here's my Q1 plan, here's my objectives, here's what I'm going to achieve. Fantastic. How great would that be to be a manager and someone presenting that to you? And again, really simple, really easy. Then those months can be broken down, and ideally you don't take all 8, you pick the vital few. So 3 or 4 of those objectives that you need to make sure you are focusing on a continual basis. So as a company, break them down, keep an eye on those monthly milestones that are going to tell you where you get to. As a consultant, obviously you can monitor them all, and that's your performance review each month to see, am I on track with my objectives? Am I where I need to be, and what do I need to adjust? If you're over, don't adjust them. Keep going, carry on with your plan. If you're under, then yeah, you're going to need to adjust it, and you're going to need to look at what's realistic, and was the planning not realistic in the first place? That's where those SMART objectives come in. Okay, update your figures on a monthly basis, keep on top of it, know what's working, what's not. So I've got an example here, just a simple spreadsheet, you can put it in. Okay, so my vital few are my turnover, my net profit, my customer retention, and my new clients. They're the key focuses that I'm going to work on this year that are going to make a difference. If I can keep the customers I've got, plus bring in new ones, and make sure that I'm on target with my revenue, then that's my overlying vital few, and I know that's going to get me where I need to go alongside the other details. So you can quite easily see, well, what have I got that's going to help me along the way, and am I on track? So there's a couple of months here that weren't quite on track, we didn't get to the red, great, but again, quickly you can put things into practice to bring it back, and this is something you can then share with your team to let them know we're on track, we're doing all right, we're great, or no, okay, let's get together what we're going to do, because it's going off track and we need to make sure we put more effort in. But at least you know where you are, none of this going on. Okay, so create the monthly plan, write an action plan. This is now where you've got the details. So we've got the objectives, we've broken it down, we know what we're doing, we now need to put into plan, well, how are we going to do it? So have an action plan as to what you're going to do, write it down, share it out, what are the tasks needed, who can get involved with those, so that again, you can make sure that it's a team effort and that everyone's doing it. Or if it's you, and it's just you in your business on your own, because I know that obviously a lot of team companies are like that, then well, who else could who could be a mentor, or who in my peer group, who else could I get involved with this that might support? And I know collaboration is such a key thing in team, but do reach out. There'll be other people that will be doing this on their own as well, so why not work together and actually support each other in that sense? Example there of breaking it down. So what are my targets? What's the activity I need to do this month? Getting ahead for next month, knowing what's coming up, what do I need to plan now, who's going to do it, and obviously a good old tick box. So just an action plan there moving forwards. Right, we've got our objectives, we've broken them down, we've got an action, we know what we're going to do. So that's sort of the business plan, but we need to get specific. So with our clients and our candidates, we need to have a plan for them, because add those two together with delivery, with good quality, then obviously at that point, that's what's going to make the difference to our business and make sure that we are actually achieving and getting all the opportunities that we want, because we can't afford to miss out on opportunity next year. So let's look at these 2 strategies, and remember, don't worry about all the detail on here. You get in the slides, so you'll be able to take your time to actually go through it and work out. But BD strategy, break it down. What's your overall plan? What is it that you need to achieve? So how many clients overall? How many new clients do you need? How many key accounts have you got? What is it that it's going to make a difference to your business? Do you need to change sectors and divisions? Which ones are you going to focus on? Because maybe going more niche could help you next year to really focus on those areas, but you've got to do your research and find out who's likely to be using you in business. Plus that percentage, that overall percentage of returning customers needs to be a critical objective for next year. And then we can break it down. So we've got 4 different types of customers here: existing, lapse, potential, key accounts. Key accounts are your existing as well, but they need a bit of extra special something. So have objectives for each of those. How are you going to look after them? How are you going to keep your existing ones? What about getting your lapse one back on track? Let's go back a few years, up to 5 years, to be honest, if you've been around for a while, looking at who hasn't used me in those 5 years that did before. What's going on with them? Is it a new contact? And then share them amongst the team if you've got a team, to actually focus on that in December, early January, and if they're not getting anywhere, swap them round. So really nice competition to have there, where everyone's working together to get those lapsed clients back on, and they tend to be quick wins, which is great. Potentials, where's my target? This is where your research and your planning needs to come in, and we'll come into that in a second. So make sure you've got target clients that are good clients, you've qualified them, you've got a criteria of what makes a good client. So look at your key accounts, look at what makes a great client for you. What is it about them? What are the characteristics? Now let's try and focus on getting more of those, because that's what works for us. So have a 3-month strategy, 13 weeks, break it down, activities, what do we need to be doing to get them on board? Knowing that a new client can quite easily take 6 contacts before you'll get anywhere with them. So over a 13-week period, you can have 6 different types of contacts. They're not all phone calls. There's lots of ways to get in with clients, and in the daily workouts, we've covered that quite a few times. So you'll be able to find lots of BD stuff on that. Key accounts then, what makes them different? Well, actually, what is a key account to start with? So a lot of people go 80-20 rule. 80% of your revenue should come from 20% of your clients, so you can work that out. Have a look at your top list of clients, look at the top 20%, how much revenue did they bring in? Was it roughly 80%? If it is, go with that, because that's working for you. If you've not got many clients, then it doesn't tend to work, so you might want to put a revenue figure on it. Anyone that actually spends more than this in a year, and therefore you can break it into the 4 quarters, by this point, they're considered a key account. But then what do they get? What's extra? Do they know they're a key account? Can't afford to be losing these ones. So make sure you look after them, let them know that they're special. On the left-hand side on the BD strategy, we're now looking at how you're going to do it. So what's your social media strategy? Where are you? Where are your clients? Where are you going to make an impact? What type of information can you be gaining? What's your sales policy? Obviously lots of information in there. And then finally, how good are you at actually doing this? Because if you haven't got those skills, then that needs to be part of your plan as well, to actually increase those skills. So whether it is negotiation, and it might be that that's going to be critical for next year. Had a company call me yesterday, what are we doing with negotiation at the moment? So not surprisingly, that's going to be an issue. Bids and tenders, okay, maybe we want to go out and get a few big chunky pieces of business that will keep us through. We've got a fabulous bid writing course, Bid Writing for Success with Fiona Brunton. I know you know her very well as well, so that's available, and team on our courses all get 20% discount, so do feel free to utilise that, obviously. Market research we're going to come on to. So BD strategy then. Break it down. What are your objectives for each of these areas? What's going to be important for you? Link it back to your overall objectives. That would have helped drive where you're going anyway. And therefore you can make sure you've got enough information to really hone in on what are we doing and how are we doing it and when are we doing it. Exactly the same for the candidates. I'm not going to go through all of that. I'm just going to bring those up. But it's your live candidates. So who are you working with right now that's actually active? Who's on the database, the registered candidates, and how we're going to make sure we keep that clean. A bit of housekeeping on there over the next month is always a good idea. The potentials need to link with your potential clients, obviously. If you're going after that business, you're going to need those candidates. So that's where your talent pooling comes in. Start looking now. Don't leave it till later. Same scenario on the left-hand side. Okay. Analysis to planning. So we've got all of this data. We've got our objectives. We now need to make sure that we put a robust plan in place of the hows. And from that, we need to gather the stats. We need to gather the information. So first and foremost, how strong is your market knowledge? If you're a new consultant to recruitment, this is what gets a lot of them. It's like, oh my goodness, there's so much to learn. One, about recruitment, but also about the sector that I'm supplying to. So that's where this comes in. You need knowledge on your sector, your clients, your candidates, your competitors. What are they doing? What are they doing well? What are they not doing so well, where you might be able to get in? But also your own company. What do you do that stands out, that means that clients and candidates do want to use you? So this can break down. I've done it before in a course, and I think we got something like 52 different elements that you need to be working on. So like a good 10 for each of them. So do look at that as to how much have I got. And that's a quarterly thing. That's something you can be updating all the time. We know how quickly markets can move. You've also then got your PESTLE analysis that's been so critical this year. Look at those elements that PESTLE comprises of. Every single one of them have been major this year. No minor things happening that impact our business. Every single one has been a major impact, and we're not finished yet. Okay, we've got the vaccines coming out, great, but we got Brexit in a couple of weeks as well. So yeah, let's move on. If you've not seen a PESTLE before, come back to that slide and have a look through. If you need any additional help, I think we might have done a workout on that one as well. So you'll get like a 10-minute video on all of the details within that. Okay, good old SWOT analysis. So PESTLE's a lot more the external factors, and that comes into your opportunities and threats. You would use it in there. The S and the W, the strengths and weaknesses, are internal. What are you good at that you can use next year in your plan that you want to enhance and work on and keep? Where are the weaknesses? Where is it not working? Is it your fill rate? Is it 17%? In other words, you're not even getting 1 in 5 placed. So you might as well have only worked Monday and you're not getting paid for the rest of the week anyway. So think about where are the weaknesses, because that's what needs to go into your objectives. Double check back and make sure that they're in there and that you are going to be working on them next year, because otherwise, unfortunately, they're still going to be there next year. So just to sum that up then, we're coming to the end of our 30 minutes or so. We're nearly at the end, this 0.5. So from a year, take the annual objectives, break them into quarters, down into the months in a quarter, and then now what we want is the weekly and the daily tasks, the actual job that you're doing on a weekly and a daily basis. That means that these things are going to get achieved. So activities wise, I pulled this together a couple of years ago, key activities. I'm up to 52. And look, number 1 is admin. So you know how much there is in that. 52 different activities that a 360 consultant would do. So certainly key areas that we want to focus on. We want to make sure, well, what's their annual revenue? Divide it by their average placement value or average timesheet value if we're on temps or contract. Divided by my interview to placement ratio, work out my CV to interview ratio, and then divide it by my CV to job ratio. And from there, I'll be able to work out, well, if I need this revenue, I need this many placements. And if I need this many placements, I need this many offers. If I need this many offers, I need this many jobs. If I need this many jobs, I need these many interviews. And if I need these many interviews, I need these many CVs sent out. You can break it all the way down and then work it all the way up again. These are the activities. These are the key elements that I need to do on a daily and a weekly basis to achieve what I need to achieve. I did this session with some consultants yesterday. So they're creating their quarterly plan based on all their ratios and their stats. And it might be that's a weakness. Our interview to placement ratio is rubbish. It should be around 6 to 1 because you want to be filling 50% of the jobs. So, and you want 3 interviews for every job as an ideal, as a rough. So if you work out those today for the last quarter, what's your interview to placement ratio, and it's way over 6 to 1, then you're working really hard and not getting paid for it. If it's under 6 to 1, bravo, we'll move on. So our last bit then, that's not forward planning. You can't just rely on hope. Okay, we have from the governments and everything this year, and look at where that's got us. So we need to have our own plan. We need to work on this ourselves. And a key part of that plan is your people. So yes, we had one for clients. Yes, we had one for candidates, but of course we're going to have one for your people as well. So looking at this element, do they know what they're doing? Do they have a good job description and person spec? Are they clear on what they have to do? Is there a plan for them for the future? Can they see where they're going with your business? Even if you're only 2 or 3 people, you can still have this, and you can still have 7 levels, because it can be about their seniority and the responsibility that they take with their next title. They don't have to wait for someone to leave. How are you attracting them? How are you onboarding them? How are you making sure that they're trained and developed? How are you keeping them? Engagement strategy, making sure that they stick with you. They're not going anywhere else. What do you do? That means they don't want to go anywhere else. Do you have performance management, appraisals? And within that, obviously, comes their training plans out of that. So if you're missing any of that, again, we've got all of this information for you in the gym. Do reach out, do ask, because now's the time to be reflecting and looking at, what do I need to work on next year? And it might be that that's part of your objective, that you actually have a detailed engagement strategy and a people plan for next year to make sure that you're looking after your people. We've had to look after them this year. It's been a bit different. Next year, it needs to be all about the business looking after them and them in the business and moving forwards and developing themselves, because we've had a little bit of a stopgap this year. Let's sort of wipe this one off and we'll start again in a couple of weeks, and it will be a much, much better year. So ready for 2021 then? Let's move forwards. I picked the chess, I forgot to say right at the beginning, because I have been watching the Queen's Gambit. It's all about planning and strategy and having your moves ahead and knowing what's going to be there. So make sure you've got your annual objectives. Break it down into your quarterly goals, monitor it monthly, have an action plan of what you've got to do, get your market knowledge up, know what's going on, do your analysis, put that into the plans, know your ratios and your KPIs, your strengths and your weaknesses, to be able to put it all into practice. And as you go through each month, you can update, am I on track, am I not? If I'm over, great, I'll stick with it. If I'm not, how do I adapt? What do I need to change? What needs to get better for me to get back on track? Okay. So there we go, half hour of full-on details on annual business plans. So I know that you've obviously taken a lot in. There is the presentation for you. You don't have to worry about that. So let's see what questions you've got, any queries, anything relating to what you're doing at the moment. Happy to answer those. Anything to do with the course as well. And if you want to really go into a lot of detail, we've got a month-long course on this for managers and consultants. So you wouldn't expect me not to do a little bit of prep in there to actually share the details of the course if you're looking for that. So feel free to join us there. Okay, any questions? I think it was dead on 30 minutes, wasn't it?
You did very well. Because I'm daft at tech, I couldn't use the Q&A, but I think that's because I'm a panelist. A few recruiters have told me about some of the challenges in managing, firstly, slightly disparate teams, because they've either been on with COVID, they've been either on furlough or working from home, and they felt that the culture of their organisation has slid a little bit. Any tips for picking that up, because it was one of the first things you talked about in terms of strengths and weaknesses, or negatives and positives?
Yeah. So certainly with the first bit is that vision of doing it together, and you don't have to be in the same room to do that, but you can certainly all be on a sort of a half-hour Zoom webinar together, working through it, and then people sharing what their vision is, and then they can just type it up and send it to you, and you can collate them and come back to them a week or so later with the one for 2021. But that as an exercise, and actually anything that you're doing at the moment, any planning, any research, try and get the team to be doing it together rather than doing it on your own, because that will make a difference to their engagement with it, their understanding of it. So there's no reason why a manager or a director needs to put their year-long business strategy together without any input from their team. This can be a team effort, and it's a nice way of everyone having a focus, I think, and moving forwards into next year. So that would be one of my key ones, is get everyone doing it together.
Okay, cool. Now, I've actually worked out how to, if anyone wanted to ask a question, if you raise your hand, I'll be able to allow you to talk and put a question directly to Angela. If anyone wants to stick their hand up, I think we can do that. Who's going to be brave? Anyone got the hands up? Got a Q&A coming in. Did you see the?
We've got a question from Beverly.
Yeah.
So, do you recommend transparency on financial goals and targets along with actual achievement? It's interesting, this one, because I always have that discussion with my directors when we're setting up the orbit initially, because for them, they have their turnover, GP and net profit as well. And we have the discussion, and it's really down to your own culture. So how comfortable you feel sharing your net profit with your consultants, that is your own personal decision. For me, yes, I did. I would get the P&L out. I would share it with them. I would highlight things myself. I'd give them copies. again, it was sort of training for them, but it was also that appreciation of them realizing how much it costs to keep the business running, and why those minimum standards are there to make sure that we do actually have some profit, as long as they can see that some of that profit is being spent on them. And that's where your engagement strategy comes in. So I like to show it that, yes, here's the net profit, and guys, if we do 5% above this, we're going to do this as an incentive. If we're 10% above, we're going to do this, so they can see it's coming back to them. I think that's critical. But it is your own decision. It's your own businesses. So all you have to do is when you do the presentation, you keep the GP, you just take the net profit off, and that's fine as well. There's no right or wrong on that one, really.
Thank you. John Doherty's put his hand up, and I've let John have access. John, fire away.
Thanks, Simon. Angela, thanks for your presentation. At my last place, which was quite a mixed desk, mid-sized business, we created what we called a balanced scorecard. So because our business plan was actually quite complicated, and what we were able to do is just extract out of the business plan the most important objectives. So we think we picked about 4 or 5 of the most important objectives for the year and monitored them as a primary focus. So I was wondering if you'd heard or used a similar tool, because business plans can get quite woolly, or not woolly, but very complicated.
Yeah, that's why I love the Orbit, because it's one page and you can have up to 3 or 4 years worth of objectives on there, and it's really simple and to understand, but you can get it down to then the quarter and use it just for a quarter. From a business point of view, you're right, we talk about the vital few, so 3 or 4 that you focus on, that you make sure that you get the monthly updates, and you are doing that. But as a consultant, your performance review, you're likely to have sort of 10 things that you're monitored on. So there's no reason why you can't have those, like the 8 from your own personal Orbit, that is part of your performance review.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Angela, we've got another question from Jim, who's actually typed it in. How do we apply the PESTLE analysis?
So gathering is research, Jim. So politically, depending on where you're working, but even then I would suggest, if we just took political at the moment, you look at it from your local point of view. So your local council, your planning departments, the notices, keep a lookout for what's going on. We used to pick up loads of clients from the planning department. If you know someone in that planning department that's local to you, make friends with them, because you'll get the heads up of new estates, new buildings, new takeovers of buildings. And of course you can get in before anyone even knows, and the sign goes up outside. So that's sort of that real local side. Then look at it from a county point of view, your county councils, again, seeing what's happening there. You've then got national, so this is where we've been most of the year with Boris and what's going on and what impact, and certainly the tiers and everything are impacting us all at the moment as to how we work. And then you've got the geopolitical. So with everything that's going on in America, we've got Hong Kong, Bangkok at the moment, they've still got protests and everything going on, that's where I work. So depending on what impacts your working life, as it were. But we know what happens in America is potentially going to impact us here. What happens in the EU has been impacting us here, and what they decide or they don't decide. So it's watch the news. It's do your research, know what's going on from both a local, national and international point of view, and then take a step back and go, if that happens, what does that mean for my business? And if you're not sure, that's where things like this, where you can do events, and there will be experts and speakers along this. We had one last Friday. Every 2 weeks we have an ask the coach. So if you've got any questions that you're not sure of how it's going to impact you, then come along. We have 4 or 5 coaches on every 2 weeks just to ask questions like this, to be able to go through that. Can be recruitment related, can be business related, doesn't matter. We had Simon Block from the GMW, I know he's part of the team as well, last week answering questions on employment law and things. So feel free to come along and ask those. But from that, you've got to think, well, what could happen? Where are the threats, and what am I going to do about it if that happens? So certainly IR35, if you're in that arena and it's going to affect you, you should be already having those plans again for April. Yeah, just don't do it once. We've also got one from Martin. Question about what my customers would say to me in 12 months is something I haven't ever thought of, but really important. What sort of feedback would you aim for when it comes to customers' opinions? I just think about, what would I want them to write in my LinkedIn testimonial? That's what I want them saying about me. So have a look at your Google reviews, have a look at your Glassdoor. If they're positive, great, you can take inspiration from them. But if they're negative, you now know what you don't want them saying, and therefore what you do want them saying. So I think that's probably the quickest way to that answer. Any others?
I think, did we do Tim Lane's?
Oh, no. Oh, they're all down the bottom. I thought they were going up that way. They're now going the other way. Sorry. How do you get your consultants to buy into this planning process when they've had a really difficult? Yes, good point. And this is what we've done with our Business Planning for Success course this month. We would normally look back on 2020 and also the last quarter. That's our reference, really. And we gather the stats from those, work out the KPIs. Are we on an upward trend, downward trend? What's going on? Not really realistic this year. So what I have said to all of those delegates is we go back to 2019 and we get both. And we see what's happening, because some industries have done well and some companies have done well despite. So it's good to have that data. But with your consultants, if they were with you last year, get them to do 2019's figures, then 2020's, the last quarter. So now they've got 3 sets of data. If 2020 is awful, then you can say, we're not even going to look at that. Let's look at 2019, and that's where we want to be back to in 2020. So that's our sort of starting point. Let's look at the last quarter. What do we need to work on? What needs to happen? And let's take it from there. So I think that's very realistic and a good question. Balance sheet repair, probably very important for a number of businesses. So by balance sheet repair, oh, go for it, Simon.
No, well, I think you should. I think you should go for it. I think people have quite a few companies who had fairly thin balance sheets. You know, we're running businesses. A lot of people own those businesses 100%. They've been taking dividends every year. What's wrong with that? The businesses have been going great in the last few years. They may be a bit thin, those balances now. How do we support? If you've taken lots out of that balance sheet and they're a bit weak, then I'm sure 2020's damaged it further, or really had attacked it. So how do we repair those? Any tips on that?
I'm not an accountant or someone in that way. I mean, that's my other business, that's my situation. So unfortunately, yes, luckily I've been doing very well for many years, and therefore can just take the dividends from that. But what I did do, both from home and from a business point of view and from the recruiting gym's point of view, is go through that P&L with a fine-tooth comb, and we've got rid of everything that was lovely to have. Unfortunately, they've all gone. So for me, that was the starting point. Look at your costs and break those down, and focus on the sales and the development to make sure that you don't have to worry about the costs next year. That's key for me. Wayne Donnelly asked about key accounts and how do we define it. So that key account for me is usually your top 20% of your business, and they are existing. They're not different. They are existing clients that you're working with that are your top 20% bringing in the most revenue. But if you've only got 10 clients, then that's 2, and that might not be realistic. So if you've got 100 clients, your top 20 probably would be right. So you've just got to look, do I need to then put, well, maybe those that spend X in a year, and there might be 4 of those out of your 10, well, they're my key accounts, and they need to get additional activities. Again, you can brainstorm with your team, think about what do we do, because you probably do stuff for those guys already. So like one of mine yesterday, I did an hour with some consultants, one-to-one on their ratios, working out so they could do their quarterly strategy, and we didn't charge for that. They're a key account, and those little extras and add-ons are really nice to be able to do, and they know that they're special for us.
I think, yeah, thank you for that. What Beverly next? I think you reckon.
We had the transparency. Is there another one?
Yeah, yeah. Josh has asked a question. Which would you involve your direct teams in annual quarterly plans? I think you sort of covered a bit of that. But
yeah, definitely. So this is where you get your consultants to buy into KPIs. This is how you do it, because they create their own plan based on their own analysis, because each individual will have strengths and weaknesses in different areas. So having a blanket KPI of activities, remember, activities aren't KPIs, they're activities. So, but if you have that blanket, everyone has to do the same, then they're all going to get different results from it. So working it back the other way, saying what are the results you get, let's work down what your ratios are, then you can work it back up again to hit your target for next year. And they'll be different for everyone. They can see that they're relevant. They know that they mean something to them. They can monitor them on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, so they can adapt their plans. They now feel in control of what they're doing, and they're not just working head down, day to day, keep going, hopefully get there in the end. Now they know exactly, I've done this today, that's going to get me where I need to be. Because they're on top of it and they're monitoring it. So this is where you can see the difference in consultants, where they move to that next level, because all of a sudden they've got some business acumen that goes with what they're doing, and they get smarter about the activities, because they don't want to put an activity down they don't think they're going to get a result. So all those calls for call's sake and meetings for meeting's sake, they stop, because they know they're not going to get the result at the end, and it's going to make their stats look bad. So hopefully that answers your question. Should those KPI from the last quarter, last 12 months? Both, George, but do take 2019's if 2020 was rubbish. So go back to last year as well if you can get access to those. Anything else?
Well, I'm disappointed they don't want to go live, Angela. You scare them, obviously. Some great questions written, and thanks, John, for proving the tech does work with the verbal, the engagement answer. Been a really good session, Angela. Really appreciate that. I think, as lots of people have said, we've had lots of questions about where do I get hold of the slides? When is this recorded? This will be up on the website, hopefully within a couple of days, and we can send the link out to people just to remind them through our WhatsApp groups for the moment. So thanks again, Angela, and the recruiting Jim, Alex, and the rest of the team for the support you've given us this year. Looking forward to some more projects that we're going to work together on next year.
Yeah, fantastic. And remember, guys, you get access to those courses in the gym. You've got your own community area. I'll stick everything in there as well, so that you can make sure that you can get hold of this stuff. And if you've got any queries, just give us a shout. We're happy to help.
Fantastic. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.